Happy November. It is going to be Halloween tomorrow. I hope you all had a fabulous spooky season this year. Obviously, it is our November Tarot TBR. We are going to plan the 4 books that I am reading for November. We have kind of a wide variety of books, though, that I picked today. If you've been following me for a while, you know I usually read just like fantasy and horror. We kind of went out of that boundary today. It's going to be kind of a fun time. We've got some familiar faces in the cards, and we have one story that you guys haven't heard before that personally I definitely think can be read through a queer lens. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. So without further ado, let's bring on the books. We'll do a quick rundown of the rules while I do a little shuffle. So, of course, we are using Yoshi Yoshitani's absolutely gorgeous Fairy Tale Tarot of the Divine Tarot card deck. 1 card equals 1 book for me. If I have 2 of the same number of the minor arcana, I will pick another card, but otherwise, what I pick is what I get, and all of the prompts are, of course, linked in the Google Doc down below if you'd like to play along. So, the first card that I pulled is the 2 of Coins. We literally saw this last month. I'm gonna give you like a super quick rundown of this story, and then I want to talk specifically a little bit more about the actual people behind this story, just because I think it's kind of interesting to get some more historical context. The figure represented here is rhpisunt, or Bear Mother. This is an indigenous story from the Haida peoples. Rhpisunt was the beautiful chief's daughter who is kidnapped and brought to a bear village, where she then falls in love with one of the bear men. They have 2 kids who are half bear and half human. Her brothers end up showing up, kill her bear husband, and take her and the kids to live in the human village. The kids who grow up in this village are renowned as very successful hunters, but when rhpisunt dies, they never really felt quite like they belonged in the human village, and so when she dies, they move back to the bear village, never to be seen again. So I wanted to talk about the Haida specifically. So they are an indigenous group in the coastal area of Haida Gwaii in British Columbia. So something I found very interesting is that there are 2 social groups, the eagle and the raven. Traditionally, the Haida will always marry someone from the other group. In context of this story, that might be another reason why it was so important for rhpisunt's brothers to find her, because she was the chief's daughter and was likely promised to someone important from the other group as a way to like meld the communities. The card, the 2 of Coins, the reason this card has popped up 2 months in a row is because this is the multitasking card, and it is again reminding me to keep a work-life balance in a hefty school year. Also, if you're curious about what that school year looks like, I just released a Week in My Life vlog where I took you along with me for a whole week going to university with all my classwork, so if you're curious, go and check that out. The prompt that I have for 2 cards is a book with 2 or more leads, and for Coins, something tense or funny. And guys, it's time. I'm so excited. We're gonna read Lasher by Anne Rice. So this is the 2nd book in Anne Rice's Mayfair Witches trilogy, which I do have the first one here. The first one is The Witching Hour. It's a very hefty, dense little guy. I can't really tell you anything about what this is about because there's no way I'm going to spoil The Witching Hour. I know some of you are currently reading that, so like no way I'm gonna do that to you. The first one is about Rowan, who is a very successful surgeon and also part of the Mayfair witch family. She discovers her powers kind of accidentally throughout her life, and she runs into our other main character, Michael, who has a near-death experience and wakes up basically able to like see the history of things that he touches with his hands. So they kind of fall in love and go on an adventure to New Orleans so Rowan can learn about her birth family, and crazy shit, dark shit happens. And I am so excited for this. It's gonna be so dark and so upsetting. So that is the book that I picked for the 2 of Coins. Our next card that we pulled, we've also seen fairly recently, and that is the Ace of Cups. What is represented here is Matsuo's sake. Matsuo-sama is the Japanese patron god of brewing sake, and it tells the story of how Matsuo created the drink of the gods that is today considered a blessing. I want to tell you today about the Matsuri, a yearly festival in Japan for expressing gratitude to the gods for both the abundance of nature and the birth of descendants. Sake specifically is the most important offering at one of these Matsuri, as it is a blessing from the gods specifically that was also created from rice, which is another blessing from the gods. During a Matsuri, you would offer the sake or other foods or drinks for the gods to partake. Now, obviously, the gods don't drink it, but as you're offering it in the spirit of modesty and abundance, it is believed that the drink or the food or whatever is literally filled with the blessing and the grace of that god that you're honoring, and then the people partake themselves themselves to essentially imbibe in that god's blessing. Like, if you think about like the historical context of this, they probably just liked sake so much. They were like, well, this is obviously a spiritual gift to the gods, and it gives us an excuse to drink a lot of it at our yearly festivals. The card, the Ace of Cups, this is all like love and new relationships. It's literally like your heart is overflowing with blessings, like a cup of sake. The prompt that I have for Ace cards is a new author I haven't read before, and for Cups, something emotional or sad. I'm very excited about this book. I picked A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is a queer historical romance with a trans woman as the main character. So the main character, Viola, something happens and she is presumed dead, so she decides to live fully as herself, but because of that, she loses her land, her wealth, and her closest friend, Justin. Years later, their families reconnect, and she discovers that her friend Justin has become deeply depressed after her presumed death. And so she takes it upon herself to help him kind of come out of that depression, and it becomes a little spicy, a little romantic. I know a different booktuber recommended this book, and I can't for the life of me remember who it is. I remember hearing about it and just thinking it sounded so incredible and so lovely. And they spoke very highly of it. So I'm genuinely really excited for it. I've just been in the mood after a whole month of spooky reading. Like, I'm very excited to just read something that's like a good historical romance. It's not Outlander, you know? Like, it's gonna be a good time. So that's the book that I picked for the Ace of Cups. The next card I pulled is a new card, and that is the Nine of Cups. So what is represented here is the tale of Taj al-Muluk and the Princess Dunya, which is one of the 1001 Arabian Nights tales. There are a couple of different versions that I found, but I particularly enjoyed this one. Prince Taj al-Muluk is an intelligent, very well-read young man, and he meets some merchants while he's out hunting. One of them, Aziz, who has a different story in the 1001 Arabian Nights, shows Taj al-Muluk a very intricate, gorgeous tapestry of linen depicting gazelles. Aziz says that the woman who made the linen is the gorgeous Princess Dunya of the Camphor Islands, and Taj al-Muluk, having never met her, falls immediately in love with her. Her needlework is just that good. Now, Dunya is a great character. She's super cool. She hates men and threatens to kill any and all of her possible suitors. Taj al-Muluk and Aziz go to the Camphor Islands anyways after hearing this and set up a fabric shop, hoping to like run into her. An old woman appears to buy fabric for her. Taj al-Muluk gives her the fabric as well as a letter to deliver to the princess. So they start exchanging letters back and forth, but the princess still refuses to meet with him. It turns out Dunya had a dream about a female pigeon who was abandoned to a hunter's net by her male mate, and she woke up and concluded that she can't trust men, which, like, honestly, valid. Taj al-Muluk sneaks into a garden that Dunya regularly walks in and has a mural painted of a female pigeon in a hunter's net and a male pigeon getting kidnapped by the predatory, like, kite bird. Dunya sees this and decides she must have misinterpreted her dream. She agrees to meet with Taj al-Muluk and immediately falls in love with him. She then brings him into the women's quarters. They have sex. Very spicy. He just stays in the women's quarters disguised as a woman. So the two of them wind up being caught by a eunuch, and he is taken to the king. He is determined to be executed, and just in time, as it is in all of these lovely stories, his father's vizier comes to rescue him, and the marriage between Taj al-Muluk and Dunya is then arranged. Personally, I really think I could make the argument that this is a queer text, that Taj al-Muluk is possibly a trans person, that Dunya is likely at least bisexual, but let me know what you guys think if you've read some of the other versions of this story, what you feel like you got out of that. I'm very curious to hear other people's impressions. The card, the Nine of Cups, this card is all about emotional fulfillment. I mean, cups are like very emotional, right? When it pops up, you're just like content in life. This card is actually often called the wish card because it's basically like everything that you've wished for is with you. Just like freaking enjoy it. The prompt I have for a 9 is the next book in a series, and for cups, again, something emotional or sad. The book I picked for this card is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. This is the second book in her Kiss Quotient series. I absolutely adored the Kiss Quotient book. I thought it was so cute. And we're following one of the side characters from that book as the main character in this one. So Kai, who also has autism, as does the main character in Kiss Quotient. So he actively avoids relationships, and his mother goes to Vietnam to find him a bride. And so our other character is Esme Tran, who is the bride that Kai's mom picks, and she's trying to take the opportunity to stay in America to help her family out. And instead of like seducing Kai, instead she finds herself quite smitten. And I think it will be very cute if the first one was anything to go by. I'm just been in like a very lovey-dovey mood. So that is the book that I picked for the Nine of Cups. Our last card that we pulled for today is the Four of Swords. We've seen this one quite a long time ago. The figure represented here is Fenrir. Fenrir is an infamous wolf. He is the son of the gods Loki and the giantess Angrboda. Sorry. Never learned how to say that, didn't look it up. So the gods raised Fenrir themselves to kind of keep him under control, but he grew so quickly that the gods decided to chain him up and basically tricked him into thinking that it was a game. He broke through the chains the first 2 times they did it, and for the 3rd time, the gods had the dwarves forge the strongest chain ever built that looked really, really soft and light, which makes me think of like Mithril from Lord of the Rings, because I'm a fucking nerd. But like that's what I think of when I think of this like very strong chain. Fenrir was very suspicious because of the last 2 times he'd been chained up and refused to play the game unless one of the gods put his arm in Fenrir's mouth as a pledge of good faith, because obviously Fenrir will bite the god's arm off. The god Tyr was the only god brave enough to put his arm into Fenrir's mouth. And when Fenrir was unable to break through the chain, he ripped Tyr's hand from its arm. The chain was then tied to a boulder, and a sword, as depicted on the card, was placed through Fenrir's mouth to keep his jaws open. As he howled endlessly at this betrayal, a foamy river called Expectation flowed from his drooling mouth. And at Ragnarok, which is the Norse apocalypse, Fenrir will break free and run around the world with his lower jaw against the ground and his upper jaw in the sky, devouring everything in his path, and then will also kill the god Odin before eventually being put to death by one of Odin's sons. Personally, I think that if the gods hadn't fucking chained up Fenrir, he wouldn't have brought about Ragnarok and wouldn't have killed Odin. But, you know, be nice to animals. It's not that hard. The card, the Four of Swords, this very much feels like an attack. I literally pulled these cards on the last day of my midterm, and this card literally is telling you to rest before you take on any other challenge, which I definitely plan on doing. Rest is important. The prompt that I have for 4 cards is a classic, and for swords, something informative or challenging. I will be reading Great Expectations by Charles Dickens in my British literature class in November, and while it is not supposed to be particularly challenging, I think it counts as informative if I am reading it for school. So we will all follow Lil Pip and his adventures in the big city for Fenrir. It's kind of a boring answer, but that's just my life right now. Go and check out my vlog from last week if you are curious about what a week in the life of an English major looks like. I hope you all have a lovely November, a lovely spooky season, a lovely Halloween. I hope you're reading good things. Let me know what you have planned coming up in November, and I will see you all very soon with my next video. Bye!